This week's episode went in a surprisingly emotional direction that completely caught me by surprise. I mean, that pudding scene, I thought she was leaving it upstairs so that hopefully that this horrible looking creature would maybe leave her alone, given that it was saying pudding for basically 5 minutes at the dinner table. The hook with the father being a ghost and, quote unquote haunting, but more so protecting, I think you could definitely say, and, wanting to stick by the family, didn't even cross my mind. And as far as I'm aware, there was nothing overly stated, because I think the only family we've really seen before this episode was the brother when they were watching TV on the couch. So for me, that completely took me by surprise, because when you go downstairs and you see the brother talking to the mother, the father is sitting, and then you have that big horrifying creature. Naturally, you're not going to overly analyze, is he eating? Is he talking with the others? And are they responding back? You're going to say, there's a giant ass creature, and you're going to be petrified alongside Miko. That's what's really interesting, is that I went back and rewatched that scene after seeing the credits play, and there is an after the credits scene that further fleshes out why the hell she got up and wanted to go get a drink. But I love the idea that my first experience with that scene didn't even cross my mind that something was odd about that, and then when I rewatch, it just hits you even harder. There's so many subtle details that if you've read the source material or you're rewatching it, you're gonna catch a lot of those things before they come. But I don't think it distracts or it takes away from the enjoyment, because the anime's presentation with the misty smoke and the creativity with how they really detail these grotesque creatures, absolutely flawless. And it's interesting because it's not even just interesting, it's completely depressing. Had this been a normal situation for her, the father dying, she at the very least could still have her father in her life, but she can't respond in normal ways. She can't say, I can see you, Dad. I miss you, Dad. It's okay that you ate my pudding a year ago. Instead, she has to make subtle gestures and hold it in so that ghosts and other creatures don't know that she can see them, but it's just a girl mourning for her father. And that's what makes it very depressing, I find. I mean, the whole pudding situation, I don't think anyone would really see it coming, or at least to the same degree that it happened in this episode, unless you knew about it. But from buying the pudding, saying the pudding's hers, having this ghost kind of talk about pudding for so long, to then the realization that he's a spirit, holy shit. I mean, that's probably, I would think anyway, the only reason she hasn't gone insane or completely spilled the beans, because as painful as it is, maybe at the very least she gets to see her father sometimes, and wow, that caught me by surprise. I'm gonna be thinking about that all the way till next week's episode. There's certain moments that I'm like, holy shit, that was creepy, that was wild, that was really creative, but this is the first time in 4 episodes where my jaw's on the floor, and I feel kind of like a mixture of emotionally devastated / impacted in a positive way. Probably one of my favorite moments of this anime season so far. Not my overall favorite, but if I was to make a grab bag of my favorite ones, this scene right here would be in it. Now, this episode definitely had some scenes that I was like, wow, you know what? I feel like we're about to enter Dojin territory, or maybe we're just going to chalk it up to cultural differences, but it doesn't change the fact that I like the overall idea of the brother assuming that the big sis that he spends a lot of time with watching horrifying things on screen, and obviously, they're a pretty big age gap, so naturally one's going to mature faster than the other. And if you've ever had anyone in your life, if you did have that kind of age gap in your family, the maturity thing and not being able to be kind of their best friend anymore is something that would bum you out. So the idea of pretty much thinking it's a boyfriend, getting the misunderstanding that the horrifying book that she was looking at was actually 99 Ways to Please Your Man, and just, the numerous comedic reactions throughout this episode. But I think the thing that I came out to appreciate the most is that, one, if you watch the after the credits scene, that scene when we're watching the TV and she gets up very aggressively, we didn't really see anything from her perspective in the episode that made it feel like she felt creepy. I just assumed there was something in the apartment. I thought she saw something that we didn't. But the after the credit scene sees how obnoxiously loud, horrifying, and disturbing the things she deals with. She can't even watch TV in peace because you got this goddamn face in the screen and the hands all over the girl's neck. as you have Papa Dearest over there being like, well, that's just not appropriate for children. I'm like, you don't know the half of it. I love the idea, though, that because she's seen so much gross shit over the past year, she thinks little old men ghosts who are collecting the coins underneath the vending machines are cute. Like, that's how desensitized she is. Like, it's not like she's used to it to the point of, like, she's not terrified. She is. But she's seen so much gross shit that that's considered cute to her. And I'm like, this poor girl in more ways than one. I feel like they're continuing to find more ways to up the grotesqueness. Honestly, the creature that we saw in the alleyway after she purposely dropped the coin again, because honestly, I get it. She's been dealing with so much creepy shit. For the first time, she probably thought she would have like a little pet ghost or something, right? And then you see this thing that reminded me of like a boss fight from Dante's Inferno. If you ever played the game, it was on Xbox 360, PS3, probably PC as well. But like there basically is these like hell-forsaken boss fights that are so sexually deviant, so horrifying. And this creature with basically vagina head at the bottom and this horrifying like Titan-looking creature at the top. Holy shit, like that was some Attack on Titan level creepiness. Ever seen like any of those like first moments when you get introduced to Titans that are peering over you? You're just like this little guy and you're like, wow, you're about to get trampled to death. There was some really well done directing in this episode, and it's interesting because we're now 4 episodes in, we're a month into this show, a third of the way through, and it actually feels like they don't reuse, I would say, spooks, or they don't reuse the same type of directing when revealing it. Like, there's certain elements that you might be able to go back to and say it reminds me of. There's the locker scene a week or two back where they're changing and they look and there's like a head up in the changing room locker. And then the book scene, right? You know, there's a face behind the book. But overall, when they do pop up and the way she naturally tries to get out of that situation so they don't know that she can see them, they definitely have a hunch, which is why they're so interested in her. But, like, look at the coin scene as an example. She's trying to stumble, and I figured the way she was going to get out of that was she's going to say, oh, you know, the horror movie that we're watching or the horror documentary we're watching really has me spooked. But the crow saved her ass. If you look at the lion situation, the numerous other ways she's definitely avoided it with the use of her phone or accidentally pressing the button on the bus to let the ghost out, they're still very much doing it in refreshing ways, which is surprising because you would think within 2, maybe 3 episodes max, they would have a grab bag of ideas of how to have our main character respond to the horror. But at the very least, you would think they would start reusing a lot of those moments, even if the visual designs of the creatures were different. But I have to leave it to this show. Like, they're legit changing it up enough, and even if they start reusing some sequences now going forward with how they're going to direct certain things, I really wouldn't be bothered given how much originality has been seen in the horror kind of like jump scare department. The bath scene was overly creepy. I mean, the head to then just peering over. So many really creative, just classic horror scenes in the making is how I feel, and I really hope more anime that are attempting to be spooky will take influence in terms of the spooks of this show going forward with their own projects, because I really think it's a textbook example of how to make things, like, hilariously spooky and entertaining, because they blend that comedy with the spookiness, so one never outpowers the other. But when you're looking at these creatures, like, goddamn, you kind of have a shiver, at least I know I do. I mean, overall, leave another episode very impressed, and I'm excited to see where they're going to take it from here. Thoughts and feelings, did you see the twist coming? Let me know down below, leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.